He's running a very similar deck of what Joshua was running at the YCS Madrid, which took place like just 6 short weeks ago. So now we're live with the match. You can see Marcelo holding on to 2 copies of Shadow Fusion. His field is Shadow Core, Sinister Shadow Games, and Artifact Sanctum. He's missing a monster, not just one.
Yeah, he's got the Sinister Shadow Games, but he's not going to be getting maximum value out of it. For example, with a Falco Beast combo with that Shadow. Sinister Shadow Games, sorry. So, yeah, Marcelo, while he's not going to get steamrolled because he has the Artifact Sanctum as protection, he can also defend himself with the Shadow Core for a while. It's not the best hand he could be going with.
No. Well, best hand, not quite, but definitely closer to what Marcelo has. Dominic holds onto a Moraltar. Well, not a card you want to draw into, you want to special summon it from your deck most of the time, but he also got an Armageddon Knight, Shadow Beast, Effect Veiler, Vanity's Emptiness, and Shadow Falco. That Armageddon Knight is interesting. It's a dark monster, makes sense in his deck with the Chaos Sorcerer and the Blackluster Soldier.
I'm genuinely wondering if he should have maybe started with the Armageddon Knight to test the water with, because he would have been able to summon it and still send the same cards, but if Artifact Moraltech is played to destroy the Armageddon Knight, I don't know, you're not losing the draw effect from Mathematician. Perhaps I'm overthinking it. But I don't know. I believe he could have started with Armageddon Knight, unless his opponent then followed up with Mathematician, and then that would be bad. So I'm going to trust these guys know what they're doing.
Yep. So this is Marcelo's field after that activation here. And his new draw is a monster, indeed, and it's a Mathematician, which is...
Yeah, that's a play that would have made my play considerably worse.
There we go, and an Effect Veiler, also a card we haven't seen this weekend very often.
Yeah, it was it's a card that just seems to sway in and out of being incredibly popular. But that Effect Veiler is going to be able to shut down the Mathematician to keep Marcelo from sending Squamata, Falco, which then pairs with the Sinister Shadow Games, which will send Beast and all the rest of it.
Right, so here are the face-down cards that Dominic controls, and his hand, after he draws, Armageddon Knight, Shadow Beast, Effect Veiler, Shadow Falco, and now a 5th card that we're going to add in just a second. It's a Wiretap. He's playing, well, not unique cards, but some interesting choices here, because sometimes you see a Wiretap, yes, but then it's less likely if somebody gives up a slot in their deck for a Effect Veiler as well. And he's running those 2, and he's also running the Chaos Sorcerer, so he has some techs in his deck, in my opinion, some cards that you don't see every day.
I agree with you. Just setting a monster and the Wiretap. The Wiretap can stop the Sinister Shadow Games, and yeah, that works. I mean, there's still Fusion. He's just drawn Marcelo's just drawn a Shadow Falco.
So things are improving slowly but steadily for Marcelo here. Although we have seen this before, that he can also deal with tough situations in our feature match of the top 4.
Yeah, well, he's going to take a moment to consider his options here. He does have a Fusion play open to him. The fans, if you hear any clapping coming through this, they're watching on a bit of a delay behind us, so they're going to be reacting very, very late to...
yeah, so
well, they'll be probably in time when you watch this.
Yeah, pretty much. So this might be a little bit confusing, but I hope not too much. Most likely they were happy that there was a Mathematician that got things going for Marcelo in the first place. All right, so what would be your play here? I mean, the Shadow Fusion, he doesn't really seem like good
if he
option.
plays the Shadow Fusion, he risks running it straight into Vanity's Emptiness.
So why would you do that exactly?
Well, he has a second Fusion, so he might use it to get rid of the Vanities, because he still has this attack open. But he's electing to just not do that. He's going to go for the safer. I'm going to just attack twice.
Yep.
No sense running anything in. I don't need to.
And also something you pointed out earlier today, you cannot activate 2 fusions in the very same turn.
Yes.
So, and it's not like the activation gets negated by Vanity's Emptiness. It only makes sure that the effect doesn't resolve.
Yeah, you do not get the special summon, but you still activate Shadow Fusion, so you can't just drop the second copy after you deal with the Vanity's Emptiness.
So Marcelo setting the Shadow Falco. Does he have a target in his grave? I don't think so.
Oh, he still has a Sinister Shadow Games, so even if he doesn't have a Shadow.
Yeah, there we go. All right. Dominic, in the meantime, has drawn into Blackluster Soldier, Envoy of the Beginning. And with his Armageddon Knight in hand, he can easily fulfill the requirements for the special summon of that monster.
Yeah, well, he has the Effect Veiler that he used on Mathematician as the light part, and he's got a bunch of darks in his graveyard. So the Blackluster Soldier is a very viable play, and that's what we're going to see. Oliver, you definitely know what you're doing here. You totally called it.
Yeah, I've just seen it deciding a game early on, so every time I see a Blackluster Soldier, I'm always just like, oh, this card is going to decide the game. I'm sure of it.
Yeah, it's usually a safe bet. If you're gonna say one card is gonna swing the door, it's probably that guy. And okay, so this is where the Sinister Shadow Games is probably gonna get flipped.
There we go. So you can also call the shots here. Sinister Shadow Games, one of the
Wiretap.
Yeah, one of the very strong support cards for the Shadow archetype. And yeah, Blackluster Soldier opting to banish the face-down monster because both Moraltach and Mathematician are not proving much of a threat for Dominic here. So he just says, oh, well, I got all the time in the world. I don't mind not attacking this turn. And if I can disrupt your strategy and make sure you don't get that flip effect of Falco, even though there's no target at this point in time, that's going to serve me well.
Yeah, he may not have known that was a Falco. I think he hadn't seen that, so it could have just as easily been a Squamata or a Dragon, which would have been able to get rid of the Blackluster Soldier. So instead of attacking and then risking his opponent having an answer to that, he just decides, I'm going to take that out immediately. But neither of your monsters match levels or deal with my Blackluster Soldier.
Right. So this is Dominic's field after that, minus the Wiretap that just disappeared, and shuffled back the Sinister Shadow Games. Sinister Shadow Games, not like Solemn Warning, one of these cards that you mind drawing again later on. You can always get some use out of that.
Yeah, providing you have monsters in your deck. Sinister Shadow Games will be useful to draw later on. Solemn Warning, as you rightly say, takes a chunk of your life points while it goes back into the deck.
So Dominic is left with just the Armageddon Knight in his hand here. And his field now also a Sinister Shadow Games and Artifact Sanctum are the two cards that he added here. So he's got quite some action going on and good ways to respond to his opponent's plays. And Marcelo, in the meantime, draw into Artifact Sanctum. He's now flipping his Shadow Core.
Which is bizarrely a level 9 monster, actually, I believe.
Yes, let's see if we can read that. Yes, it is a level 9 monster. So, Vanity's Emptiness foiling that plan.
Yeah, that's actually an interesting situation that hasn't come up because it's a monster, it's a trap that special summons to the monster zone.
Yes.
Yeah, so now it just, the question is what actually happens to the Shadow Core. And the judge is going to take a quick look at that.
What is your ruling?
You know, this is one of the ones where I'd actually look it up.
Doesn't happen that often.
Yeah, it's a situation that hasn't come up. I wouldn't just blank say, hey, this is how it works.
No, well, I thought this did come up at some point, but yeah, I can totally...
It probably did, and that's why there would be something to check, but off the top of my head, I...
All right, so what are the options? Well, option one is Shadow Core cannot be special summoned as a monster, and for that reason it gets sent to the graveyard. Yep. Doesn't seem very likely, to be honest, with it being a permanent trap card.
Yeah, as it's a continuous trap, it could just sit there like Call of the Haunted.
Yeah, and not do anything for the rest of the game.
Which is, I think, the most likely outcome here. I'm pretty sure it's not just going to send to the graveyard.
Yes. And what I don't think is that if Vanity's... let's assume it would stay on the field. If Vanity's Emptiness gets negated at some later point in time, it wouldn't suddenly special summon a monster or become... You think it would become a monster?
It wouldn't just become a monster if Vanity's Emptiness leaves.
So most likely, and this seems to be the ruling here, it just stays on the field and it got turned upside down. This is often an indication of this card is not going to do anything for the rest of the time.
And I believe this is an appeal because I've just seen the judge walk over and start discussing with the head judge backstage.
But then again, it seemed like the match continued. Exactly.
So never mind.
Yeah, Mathematician was switched to defense position, so Marcelo wouldn't take any damage in case the Blackluster Soldier would attack over it. Moraltach follows suit. He did set an Artifact Sanctum and now he passes. The interesting thing is Artifact Sanctum, such a good card, gives him access to Artifact Moraltach, but that is currently not possible because of the very crucial Vanity's Emptiness.
Yeah, this is not so great for Marcelo here, because that Blackluster Soldier can take out both of those monsters.
Unopposed. Completely.
Yeah, there's no response to it.
Yeah.
And even the cards in Marcelo's hand, he's got 2 fusions. If he does decide to use the Armageddonite, that may prove to be a bit of a mistake, because that's going to trigger the destruction effect of
Vanity's
Emptiness.
Yeah, that's a very interesting choice here, especially with a super polymerization also in hand. But maybe he is, well, betting that maybe he's even waiting for something like an Artifact Sanctum, and then he can use the special summoned monster, the Mortal for the super polymerization. Although, no, he's got no hands in his hand.
He doesn't control a Shadow monster.
And also he doesn't have any more cards in his hand, so he fails to meet the requirements in 2 different ways.
I don't know if switching off that Vanity's Emptiness was the best thing. He could have summoned the Armageddonite and chose to not use the effect. I'm pretty sure it's an optional effect, Armageddonite.
Yes, it is an optional effect.
Yeah, so he's kind of allowed his opponent to play that Artifact Sanctum.
Normally you want to keep the Vanity's Emptiness when you're in a commanding position for as long as possible. And since he didn't really improve his position, because I would argue that Armageddonite is not much of an improvement when you have a Blackluster Soldier.
Yeah, it was just a bit of damage. But what he's actually done here is opened himself up to Blackluster Soldier being taken out. Armageddonite cannot destroy either of them. Morale attacks, they have 1400 defense, I believe. And then they can become Constellar Pleiades, which causes
even more problems for Dominic.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't seem to be the right play, I gotta say.
Yeah, because he just could have just not used the effect of Armageddonite there to switch off his own vanities.
And it seemed like he was in a, yeah, just rely on your Blackluster Soldier to tear your opponent apart. I mean, half the time your opponent is trying to get rid of that card as soon as possible, like right away. Marcelo couldn't do that in his turn. He just sets a face-down card. So why do anything and get rid of your Vanity's Emptiness when you can just try to gain more advantage with your Blackluster Soldier?
Well, we'll see, because Dominic's not out of options, but I feel like he gave up a strong position there when he didn't necessarily need to. There's only 4,400 life points done on Dominic as well, but we know that Dominic has his own Artifact Sanctum, should Marcelo try to
overextend or commit something to the field?
If he tries to commit like a number 61 Volcasaurus or a Constellar Pleiades, the Artifact Sanctum will be able to deal with it.
Yep.
Instead, he's going to play Shadow Fusion for a Shadow Construct.
So Marcelo is now left with a compulsory evacuation device in his hand, and I believe a second copy of Shadow Fusion. He was the first player to commit to the Fusion summon, which is often very crucial in these matches. But there is a chance that he's going to push for game here.
Yeah, Dominic's Super Polymerization just come live because there's now a Shadow monster in play. He could make his own Winder. He would not be able to make a Construct because the Construct can only be either the light part or the Shadow part. So Dominic's options can change here.
Right, let's see. Marcelo with the core that doesn't do anything. That might be like a little bit confusing, but Shadow core is not going to do anything. And a Mortal and a Construct on the field currently.
Yeah, he sends Hedgehog to the graveyard and adds a Shadow Beast to his hand.
Right.
Or was no. Okay, he's just set a monster face down. So maybe that wasn't. We didn't quite catch it because it was off shot. Which card got sent to the graveyard there?
So he definitely now has a Falco on his side of the field.
Yeah, it must have been Falco he sent to the graveyard to trigger it. Or did he just use Sinister Shadow Games?
No. He's
okay.
Still holding. Nope.
Okay, never mind.
So let's make sure we are all on the same page again. Marcelo has Shadow Fusion, Compulsory, and Shadow Beast in his hand.
Oh, yeah, there's another option. He could use both his opponent's monsters for the Super Polymerization.
Yes, I think that's an even better option.
Yeah, that's so much better than what I was thinking, because he can now make a Construct because there's a light and a Shadow monster.
Right. So Dominic has now indicated that play and goes for that Super Polymerization, and he makes his own Construct.
Yep, and Marcelo's already used his Shadow Fusion for this turn. He has two Shadow Fusions in his hand, but essentially these are blank cards until next turn. So Dominic actually coming out on top here from this fusion. Taking 2 of your opponent's monsters and giving yourself a monster is just one of the many reasons this card is limited.
Yes, and the interesting thing is the question is, should Marcelo have gone for the fusion summon? Like, if there wouldn't have been a fusion summon, his opponent wouldn't have had a target for, or wouldn't have one of the materials for his super polymerization.
Yeah, he could have switched the 2 morale attacks into attack mode and attacked, but then if his opponent flicks up an Artifact Sanctum, they take out one of your morale attacks, they have one in attack mode, then you basically give your opponent the option to trade. In which case, Marcelo wouldn't have traded. I don't know, the fusion is... It let him send cards from his deck to the graveyard and set up future plays. For example, we've got a Falco face down, which can get back a construct when it's flipped.
You say it let him send cards from his deck to the graveyard. He didn't get it for free, right?
It was the construct effect that when it's fusion summon sends a card from his deck to the graveyard.
Yeah, you mean it this way, yeah. So it was a hefty investment, actually. Dominic holding on to Burst Rebirth and Shaddoll Dragon here. This is his field again. Moraltach, you might be wondering, why is there a monster not on the field? Well, that's set in the spell and trap card zone. That's the effect of the artifact monsters. And the 2 monsters he does control are Armageddon Knight and El Shaddoll Construct. Now flipping the Sinister Shadow Games.
Okay, so he's sending his own Shaddoll Falco to the graveyard, which will activate and return to the field.
So what's his plan here?
He's setting himself up for a little bit later, because the Falco he can't use his turn because he's already used its effect. He's also doing this before his battle phase, which is interesting. So he's got a Shaddoll Dragon in hand.
Did he do it at the end of his opponent's?
It might have been at the end of his opponent's turn, actually.
That's most likely because
he just played the super polymerization in his opponent's turn.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's his end phase.
He did draw a card, and that is Artifact Sanctum. That are the 2 cards in his hand, Shaddoll Dragon and the Artifact Sanctum. In case you forgot about it, Marcelo holds on to Shaddoll Beast and Shaddoll Fusion. So let's get back to Dominic here. He's checking his face down cards, Artifact Sanctum and an Armageddon Knight. So he has already run through 1 copy of Moraltach, or more than 1? I'm not 100% sure, but he's got 1 Sanctum on the field, 1 in his hand, and there's a chance that he's running out of targets in his deck.
This has happened before. There's only 3 Moraltach in...
Those are all of his targets. So with 1 gun, if he draws any more Sanctums, those are going to be dead cards. Because of the way that he built his deck. This is something to really keep in mind when you're building your deck. It's not like when you're running 3 Sanctums and 3 Moraltachs that you're always going to draw those 3 Sanctums before those 3 Moraltachs.
Yeah, it never always goes according to plan, like many things in life. The way the cards come out of the deck is certainly one of those things that can be random.
Right, so now we have an attack. There we go. An attack on Marcelo's Falco. And then Dominic concludes his turn by adding his own Falco.
Okay.
There's 1 card missing here. Yeah, there we go. This is his field at the moment. And he doesn't have any cards in hand. So those are...
He's all in on this.
Yes. Right, so back to Marcelo, who plays his Shaddoll Fusion. He has a Trap Stun in hand. That's the card he just drew. His opponent does have a monster special summon from the extra deck, so his Shaddoll Fusion right now is free, so to speak. He doesn't have to invest any cards from his side of the field or from his hand. He can instead use materials from his deck, and that makes all the difference.
Yeah, and these 2 cards he's sending from his deck are potentially have, if he goes for the window, could be 2 Shaddoll monsters triggering, or he could just go for Construct, get Construct trigger, his Shaddoll trigger, and also command a very powerful monster. He sends Squamata, which will have the ability to send another card to the graveyard after this chain is resolved.
So he's really thinning out his deck here. And that means that he will draw into more cards that will actually help him, that he doesn't want to draw into. He's going to get rid of all those tiny monsters that he doesn't want to draw into. Or, well, a Moraltach because you don't want to draw into it when you already activated all your ignitions.
Yeah, if you've already used all of your Sanctums,
Yeah, Sanctums, of course, yes.
there's very little use to a Moraltach unless you're playing the Double Cyclone or the Artifact Ignitions, which we know that Marcelo is not. So he's either deciding Fleece or yeah, it's either Fleece or Moraltach.
Yeah, and Marcelo has been pondering over this. These are his two options. Well,
Oh, okay. He's sending two. He's going to go for Winder if he sends the Beast to the graveyard. So he gets Winder and he draws a card.
all right, there we go. So
He does have a level 5 and a level 2, and one of those is a tuner. So he could try and go for Black Rose Dragon if he really wanted to.
well, yes, but he would also lose a lot of cards. I mean, his opponent is fully committed to the field, so if he could blow up the field here, him having still a Trapstun and a Shadow Beast in hand, not the best cards to sport a comeback after the field was blown up, but definitely better than nothing, which would be the case for Dominic. So let's see which path is Marcelo going to take here. So here's the Winder, another. We can have that on the app in just a second for you guys. Winder is the second so-called boss monster in Marcelo's deck. It doesn't have as much attack as the Construct, so it seems a little bit less threatening, but it's a lot more disruptive than Construct, to be honest, because it prevents you from special summoning more than one monster per turn. It also cannot be destroyed by card effects, which some people failed to realize, activating their bottomless trap holes on it.
Yeah, that doesn't work out so well.
Well, we don't expect to see that in the finals. So Marcelo did draw a Solemn Warning, still up on 8,000 life points, so he's not going to mind activating that card. And he's still resolving another Surge effect. This is really a lot of thinning out here.
Yeah.
So let's take you back to Dominic's field with the set Moraltach, set Sanctum, and also set second copy of Sanctum. Those are his back row. And his monsters, you can see, well, all the cards with stats, basically, apart from the one Moraltach. So we're still waiting for Winder on our app, but I hope that's not too confusing for you guys. And you are familiar with the card. Currently, Marcelo is...
He needs to commit to a play. This is... Okay, so his opponent was waiting for a response.
Yeah, so his opponent is going for Artifact Sanctum.
To take out the Shaddoll Falco, which will prevent a Synchro Summon, because, as we mentioned before, a Black Rose Dragon would sweep the field. There would be a bunch of effects activating, but then Marcelo has that Solemn Warning as a backup.
Not yet, because it's in his hand.
Yeah, but if he sweeps the field, then sets the warning.
After that, yes, absolutely. So suddenly he has a pretty good hand here. And the Sanctum is getting sent to the graveyard with, after it special summoned the Moraltach. So far on the left, I almost didn't see it. Here we go. And when Moraltach is special summoned, it can destroy a face-up card. So the target here is, of course, the Winder. We finally got that one for you guys.
Well, it can't... It is not a targeting effect, and he can't destroy the Winder.
Yeah, so that's definitely not the target, and this is probably why Marcelo didn't really mind that.
Yeah, I mean, the card he's going to lose here, Shaddoll Falco, he can't take out the Winder, and he doesn't want to take away the Shaddoll Core, because that'll just give a free card back to Marcelo. So, yeah, Marcelo's considering his response to this.
He's bouncing his own Falco, which... Since he hasn't normal summoned this turn, am I correct in that?
I don't believe he has. No, he is.
I think he started with a Shaddoll Fusion.
Yeah.
So he should be able to still normal summon this turn, and that normal summon allows him to bring Falco back to the field. I think that's what we're going to see next.
Interesting. Here. It looks like. Did Dominic use the effect of Moraltach to destroy Shaddoll Core? Pretty sure he could have just... It's an optional effect. He could have just chose to not destroy anything and not give his opponent anything back. Or he could have just selected the Winder, and it would be it wouldn't have destroyed anything.
So Winder now attacking over something. That is the Falco.
And here,
And then in main phase 2,
it's the Black Rose.
it's the Black Rose Dragon, a card we haven't seen for quite a while, but even though it's white and that indicates a Synchro monster, it's still as viable as it's ever been.
Merry Christmas, Dominic.
And
all your cards go in the graveyard.
while Dominic did have a response in another Artifact Sanctum that allows him to special summon Artifact Moraltech, which in turn takes down the Black Rose Dragon.
The Black Rose destroys itself.
Yeah. So Dominic does have some sort of a field, but with some sort, I mean one Moraltech, and that's it. Marcelo is sitting in the driver's seat in a very, very commanding position.
And he just went and set in his back row Solemn Warning, so he has an answer to any kind of summon that Dominic could come out with. Yes. He can take the 2100 from the Moraltech. That's not going anywhere.
Exactly. He's not under a lot of pressure here. Well, Dominic did draw into a Vanity's Emptiness, so he has a way to foil Marcelo's plan if he wants to attempt a fusion summon or a special summon of any sort. But, well, let's see what options Marcelo is holding on to here. He's got a Shadow Beast, Shadow Dragon, Shadow Falco, and the Shadow Fusion. And I'm not even sure if that involves the card he just drew. No, it doesn't, because he also has
a Foolish Burial he just drew.
Foolish Burial, yes. Which is, well, the key unlocking the door of this whole toolbox that is the Shadow deck. So here's Shadow Core, bringing back the level 9 monster, and Vanity's Emptiness is not getting activated because there is no reason for Dominic to commit to that play here, is there?
Yeah, if he does that, it's going to give Marcelo free information, and he's not going to throw his fusion, which Dominic knows Marcelo has that fusion because Dominic essentially gave it to Marcelo. We're going to see the Vanity's Emptiness being flipped on the fusion, and Trap Stun being chained.
Yes. So
he uses the core, which you can use as any attribute monster.
Is that? After,
it's wait, yeah, this is a problem.
The question is Trap Stun and core. This is the interaction here.
Yeah.
So
if it's negated, it can't be a monster.
It's not. Yeah. So it should just be a trap card for the time being, but it should come back as a monster, shouldn't it?
No, I don't think it gets re-special summoned if it's negated.
So for the second time in this match, we have a Shadow Core that's just lying around not doing anything.
Yes.
Something unique here. But now Dominic's Vanity's Emptiness is not holding Marcelo back, and with this hand that he has, he can still come up with something.
Yeah, I mean, even if he fuses just using the Shadow Beast and Dragon in his hand, he's okay with that.
Even his worst case scenario is putting him ahead.
Okay, the judges are discussing how to resolve that issue.
Yeah, so again, we have the question, what happens with a Shadow Core and some negating effect? It seems like we should have been... Oh, this seems to be our head charge, Pascal. And
yeah, he's explaining that the card is just negated.
Yes, and that was the Italian hand gesture for negated. A lot of looking like...
So if I use that next time I'm in a restaurant,
exactly.
I'll be like, this pasta is negated.
Yes, pretty much. If it's looking like you're cleaning a windshield or something, that is the Italian gesture for effect is negated. All right. So it stays face up in the spell and trap card zone. We have worked that one out, and here it is. The winner after a fusion summon. Yes, there we go. So Foolish Burial still in Marcelo's hand. He did use his other two monsters together with his Shadow Fusion. Now he has a monster that can attack over Moraltech. And the stream, the background noise that you might be hearing just now is the 3-minute delay, which was the Black Rose Dragon that just blew up the field of Dominic. I'm pretty certain of that. So here's Winder, some triggers, Shadow Fusion getting added back to Marcelo's hand. So he is sitting in a very comfortable and commanding position here.
Yeah, after this attack goes over, Dominic has nothing. Yeah, and he's competing with a Solemn Warning. And Solemn Warning with 8,000 life points, which is just an outright answer to anything.
Yes.
Dominic is going to try to do, apart unless he draws a monster and just sets it straight onto the field.
It's not quite a Solemn Judgment, which can negate anything your opponent is throwing at you. But when you're in this position, and the only card that your opponent can really throw at you and can get you into troubles is a monster. Solemn Warning is as good, or even better with 8,000 life points than a Solemn Judgment.
Yes.
Thinking about that? Yes, I think you're right. All right.
2,000 life points are less than 4,000.
That is definitely correct. So here we go with Marcelo pushing for some more damage. Vanity's Emptiness is not leaving the field just now because of Trap Stun.
Trap Stun, yes.
So Trap Stun is still active, so there is a chance that
Oh, well.
Dominic is actually hindering himself with his own card. I totally forgot about that.
Yeah, they're going to find over next turn that Dominic is going to have to face down his own Vanity's Emptiness against his opponent's established field.
Yes.
That's an excellent catch on the Trap Stun.
Yes, and that is playing a role. Let's see what Dominic draws here. A monster, and he sets it right away. I'm not even sure if the judge had time to check it. No, he didn't. So he now takes a look, and we will know in just a second. Did you catch it?
I didn't see which monster it is, but that is the only play that was available to him.
Yes, he didn't waste any time here. So it is a Shadow Squamata. Here we go.
Squamata, it destroys a monster when it's flip summoned. That cannot destroy the window. If it destroys the dragon, the dragon will take out the Vanity's Emptiness.
If Dominic wants to take it out, that's a question here.
Yeah, he might choose to just leave it up because he has control of the field.
Yes. So Dominic now activating his Foolish Burial. He still has a Shadow Fusion in hand, and one more card that he drew into, that is a monster. And he just drew another card for the beast that he set to the graveyard. He's got a Wiretap in hand. Here you go. That can... now he has an answer to an opposing monster, and with the Wiretap he has an answer to an opposing trap card. Things are getting better and better for Marcelo here.
Yeah. I'm struggling to see how Dominic is going to get back into this game, honestly. Because his only play there that he could make without being interrupted by Solemn Warning was setting a monster. I mean, there's no trap cards that he has that was going to... Well, it was going to be very difficult for him to actually deal with all of the monsters his opponent has with any of the trap cards he has in his deck.
Yeah. So depending on which monster Marcelo uses to attack, well, he never has lethal because Squamata can just take out the other attacker apart from Winda, of course. So he is just going to try to avoid taking as much damage as possible, I think. So taking out the dragon with 1,900 seems like the better option when the other option is a mathematician.
Interesting that Marcelo decided to attack with the Winda. As we saw earlier, any level 4 or lower Shadow monster will not be able to stand up to a mathematician attack.
Yes.
So he could have attacked with mathematician and got more damage in,
Yep.
but it didn't matter. You can't get any damage through, and you lose because you've put a 2,000 life point deficit between you.
Also, Dominic is running 2 copies of Burst Rebirth. That's also not a card that I expect to see in that second and a possible third game.
Yeah, those cards would be coming out. The Solemn Warning would be coming out, most likely. I'm just trying to think of what would come in here.
All right, so here we have the first few cards in Marcelo's hand here for the second duel. A Shadow Squamata, Riser the Storm Monarch, Super Polymerization, Mathematician. One more card that we're going to see in just a second, Artifact Moreltach. Dominic's hand is waiting, just taking a little bit longer to load. He already committed to his opening. Here we go. This is his opening hand, and he most likely set the Shadow Squamata. There we go. Together with Vanity's Emptiness and an Artifact Sanctum.
That's a very strong start.
So Marcelo is kicking things off with a Mathematician, providing him with access to all of those Shadow cards that will then trigger in the graveyard.
He actually goes for Fleece.
Felice is not a Shadow card.
Yep.
It's a Lightsworn monster, and those do something when they are being sent from the deck to the graveyard, or at least some of them do.
Yeah, Fleece gets special summon if she's sent to the graveyard by a monster effect. You can take a look for yourself. She's a tuner, and you can send her to the graveyard to destroy. Is it a monster or just a face-up card? And you send the top 3 cards of your deck to the graveyard. It's a monster.
One monster your opponent controls. Destroy the card, then send the top 3 cards. So we're not quite sure if Marcelo is activating that effect. I don't think that is the case. However, in any case, Dominic immediately going for Artifact Sanctum here. shutting down his opponent's, well, possible synchro summon here.
Yeah. I imagine he's probably going to... Oh, he does take out the Fleece.
Yeah.
Because then the Fleece... Oh, if he takes out the Mathematician, the Fleece then just takes out the Moraltech and sends the top 3 cards to the graveyard.
Yeah, so why would you want that? So the Mathematician then attacking into Shadow Squamata, and both monsters bite the dust. So Marcelo now has quite a few options to set here, and he does. So let's take a look at his field. Compulsory and a Super Polymerization. Dominic does have a Black Luster Soldier, Majesty's Fiend, and Artifact Sanctum. Another Sanctum, very strong here. And with a Moraltech on the field and the Vanity's Emptiness, he's sitting in a pretty good position here.
Yes. Vanity's Emptiness is very, very good. He's tributing for Majesty's Fiend, so no effects can be used by Marcelo. Marcelo does have a compulsory evacuation device, which he can use to just get rid of that Majesty's Fiend. So that Majesty's Fiend not quite as threatening as it could be. And I believe time is coming very, very close.
Yeah, it's just now we had like 2 minutes, and now it's going to be like either 1 minute, or we might already be in any second now. We might be in the timeout. So let's see. Marcelo drew into a Vanity's Emptiness, and since his opponent already special summoned, that's not exactly what he wants, now is it?
The Vanity's Emptiness is difficult for him because he does have his own Super Polymerization, which he might want to capitalize off of. Okay, it's being explained. Or a graph is, an arrow is being pointed.
All right. So still, you can see on the on the right-hand side, excuse me, Marcelo's hand, and his field again is Super Polymerization and Compulsory Evacuation Device. So he's shuffling through the cards in his hand, and now he commits to a play, which is a set Shadow Squamata.
The Squamata will not be able to activate. Oh, he's just going to go ahead and fuse that with the Majesty's Fiend to make the construct. And this is going to be a huge chunk of damage going in.
Yes, and he needs that because he's on 5-9. He's currently behind on life points. So now he can push hard. However, keep in mind that there's an Artifact Sanctum waiting in the back row of Dominic. And I think when Construct is attacking, there's a very, very high chance that this Sanctum will gonna get activated.
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree with you there.
Right, which means that Marcelo will not get any damage in, if I'm not all too mistaken, whereas Dominic will have an open field again.
Yeah, and he's already at a life point deficit of 2100 from the early Moraltech. Oh well, he's got the Shadow Falco
Right.
face down.
Right, so Marcelo will probably not take any damage, which is good news for him, but he does still lose his Construct, which is getting him back something, or not.
Yeah, because it was Super Polymerization. He hasn't actually
yes.
used a Shadow Fusion. Right. He hasn't got a Shadow Spell or Trap card in his graveyard.
Okay, so Marcelo forced to pass here. His 2 face-down cards, or 3 face-down cards, are the Shadow Falco in front of a Compulsory and a Vanity's Emptiness. His problem was he couldn't activate that Vanity's Emptiness because he just drew into it that very same turn.
Yeah, otherwise he'd been able to equalize and push the life points difference in his favor if he already had that Vanity's Emptiness. But
so Dominic does have a Black Luster Soldier and a Mathematician, and since Black Luster Soldier's special summon, wow, that's a jawbreak. Since Black Luster Soldier's special summon doesn't use the chain, there's a chance that it might actually hit the field before Marcelo flips his Vanity's Emptiness, because there's really no reason for him to do that.
Okay, the only time he's going to flip the Vanity's Emptiness, I expect, is if Dominic tries to send a
Dark Monster?
Shadow Falco. I mean, if he sends Effect Veiler, he's telegraphing that, and Marcelo might immediately panic flip the Vanity's Emptiness. Okay, he goes Squamata Beast, so he's not trying to initiate a special summon.
Yes, and that must look to Marcelo like, yeah, that's fine with me.
I still got time. I still got time. I don't know if Dominic has a light monster. in his graveyard yet.
Yeah, didn't he lose one Moraltag early on? I think that's the second Moraltag from the second Sanctum, so there should be one Moraltag in his graveyard.
Ah, you are correct.
Yes, so he does have light and dark, and
Yep.
there it is, Black Luster Soldier, and it might make the difference here. Marcelo, no chance to react anymore because, well, the special summon has already concluded, succeeded, whatever you want to call
He
it.
could use compulsory evacuation, so he immediately checks his opponent's graveyard and says, does he have another light monster if I use compulsory now? Just to hold that Black Luster Soldier off.
Yes, and well, that is an option, but it's only going to buy him half a turn or something. He's still going to take some damage. Oh, well, he might not actually. He's got Shadow of Falco set, so he can bring something back.
Yep. Likely what we're going to see is, if that is the Black Luster Soldier banishing the Shadow Falco and 2 direct attacks coming in.
Yes, so crunch time for Marcelo. He really has to, well, crunch numbers here and figure out the best play.
Yeah, he's in a bit of an awkward situation because Dominic can summon the Black Luster Soldier again because the Majesty's Fiend is in the graveyard. I'm almost certain that's a light monster. And so if he plays Compulsory Evacuation Device, then flips Vanity's Emptiness after the chain's resolved, he can stop the Black Luster Soldier coming back, but then his Shadow Falco will get destroyed. It won't be able to summon anything, and then he'll take a direct attack anyway, and then his opponent can play Black Luster Soldier on the turn after.
The Fiend is, in fact, a light monster, so very, very bad news for Marcelo here, and he just, yeah, he's not wasting, so to speak, his compulsory on the Black Luster Soldier.
Yeah, because that's just, it just ends up being even worse for him. He ends up in the same position with less cards.
Yes, so he has to take the damage, at least from the Mathematician. The compulsory is now being used on the Moraltag, which is okay-ish, but with 3,600 life point difference and the time running out for Marcelo, the clock is ticking here and fast. This is really not looking good for the Italian.
He does have the Monarch Storm 4th and Rise of the Storm Monarch, so he might be able to... Okay, Dominic has... Okay, I'm not sure which card he set, if it was the Sinister Shadow Games or the Moraltag. I'm pretty sure he set the Sinister Shadow Games. But yeah, the Monarch Storm 4th will allow Marcelo to get the Riser down and also deal with the Black Luster Soldier. He's picking up his cards.
Yeah, he's sure like this is not going to be. I mean,
The same cards in Marcelo's deck. If they've left those in, they risk drawing it. They're shaking hands because they know one way or another we are going to have a champion of YCS London
and they also
in
know
4 turns.
this can go either way. I mean, there's that can happen. Quite a bit can happen with just 5 cards for both of these players. So we're waiting for the cards to load in. Here we go. We got. I've just been told that it's Marcello. So Marcello's hand. Oh my God!
Marcello?
It's
We've been getting it wrong all day.
Yeah.
Oh
and
no.
yesterday as well. So Marcello is starting with Shadow Fusion, Mathematician, Shadow Squamata, Compulsory, and Wiretap. Whereas Dominic, his hand has a Sinister Shadow Games, Wiretap, Trapstun, Squamata, and a Shadow Fusion.
Okay, Dominic can make that hand work. That seems pretty good. The Squamata, you can just set the Squamata in the Shadow Games. He can disrupt his opponent's play and get something else out of the Sinister Shadow Games. He's got the Wiretap should his opponent try to hit the Vanity's Emptiness up. He's got the Trap Stun. Yeah, I think Dominic can make that work.
Whereas Marcello is having a little bit of a harder time, doesn't he? I mean, he really wants to go first here, so his Wiretap is going to do something.
Yeah.
Mathematician into Wiretap, as his opening seems pretty good. But he doesn't do that. He instead sets Squamata.
The compulsory could break the game wide open because it can be just one direct attack that makes
all the difference here, yes.
Makes a difference, so yeah.
So that's his opener, and then back to Dominic's hand. He draws Breakthrough Skill. Very good card, but he only has so much time. And he goes for what he telegraphed early on. He's got Squamata together with the, well, Sinister Shadow Games, with the Wiretap, with the Breakthrough Skill now, and a Trap Stun. So he must be feeling not too bad here.
Yeah, the question is, does Marcello take the bet, flip his compulsory here, and try and press through as much damage in his turn as possible? Or
Then again, he does have a wiretap, so he might just think that his wiretap can force through the activation of his compulsory if he needs to.
yeah, so he can take the time to see what his final information will be before committing to the play.
Yeah, and a Riser, the Storm Monarch, is actually a useful top deck here, isn't it? Targeting the monster, that could be an option at least. Well, the Sinister Shadow Games would still be doing something. So he starts by flip summoning Shadow Squamata, and that's getting breakthrough skilled.
This could be bad. Because now there isn't an answer to the Riser.
Yes, that is indeed correct. And question is Marcello going to think of that?
Well, Marcello is considering wiretapping the breakthrough. He's thinking, if I wiretap the breakthrough, I get to destroy my opponent's face-down monster, which is my opponent's Squamata, which will trigger.
Yeah, but isn't returning it to the deck much, much better than this?
I think he's planning on how he can win the game, because he doesn't know what his opponent's face-down card is. If he destroys that, he can tribute for Riser, spin a card, then attack directly. His opponent draws that card, can't do anything. I mean, the only way that play doesn't work out is if he wiretaps and his opponent has a Sanctum. Because even if Dominic then sends Squamata and Falco to the graveyard, and then puts the Falco face down, the Riser sends the Falco back to the top of the deck, 2,400 points. Dominic can't just set the Falco again, because then 4 turns have passed, life point difference. So Marcello is deciding, what do I do if I don't have the wiretap for the Sanctum?
Yes.
I mean, he can still do this Riser play here.
Yeah, there are quite some options here. So look at his hand again. Michelle Fusion, a Mathematician, and the Riser. And he's thinking long and hard. Well, it seems like the breakthrough skill has resolved by now.
Yep.
Because it's in the graveyard. So he's fine with that. And now the question is, will he flip? Will he tribute summon Riser?
I think that's definitely the play, to be honest. He has a wiretap to back that up.
Yes, so he does set...
No, he summons another monster to the field.
That's Mathematician. So he now gets to search his deck and send something to the graveyard. I'm wondering if that is the better play here. It is Felice again. And our judge being a little bit faster than the players here, already saying that Felice is on the field, which is going to happen, yes. Fair assumption, and a little bit of a spoiler warning here. So Sinister Shadow Games, Wiretap and Trapster, nothing can stop Felice here now, can it?
No, there's nothing there. The Riser play, I'm pretty sure, would have won the game, but at the same time, Marcello couldn't really afford to take the risk.
Yeah. This...
Okay, he's using Felice's effect to destroy the face-down monster.
So now he has 2 attackers, which is good in case his opponent had an Artifact Sanctum. And maybe he's also expecting his opponent to have a wiretap of his own. So he's like, yeah, this is the safest bet that I can get some damage in here.
Yeah, this is true. His opponent does. It could go wiretap, and he could lose out to his Sanctum, wiretap war, which is why this play is considered safer, I guess.
So Dominic really has to think long and hard about what to do here. Again, these are his options. The Sinister Shadow Games, wiretap and trap stun.
This is crucial. If he makes the wrong decision here, he's out. And Marcello, the luckiest man in London right now, will be walking away with a title. So he has to be absolutely certain that he is making the correct play.
Yeah.
You can see, just looking at his face, he's gone red because he knows the pressure is on this decision.
Yes, there's so much pressure on him at this point in time. And look at Marcello, him baiting him.
He's goading him.
Talking to him, saying something like, hey, come on, make a move, man. You got to make the right call. And, well, that might not be the case then. And, well, that's something to be expected at this level. You do want to trap your opponent and try to manipulate them as long as it's within the rules of the game. And this is within the rules.
Well, Marcello, he's also, I imagine, You know that feeling you get when you're excited, like you're going to do a bungee jump. You're kind of nervous, but you're excited. He's got that because he knows he's just one step away from winning, and he's in the attacking position. Dominic, on the other hand, has got that horrible feeling like he's going like to visit his in-laws or something, and he's not particularly keen on them, and he's like, oh God, this could go so wrong.
You know that your girlfriend is listening to this, right?
I like my girlfriend's family.
Okay.
That's I'm not relating this to my own life at all.
All right, let's hope nobody else is. So there down goes the monster, the Shadow Squamata, and Dominic is left without protection for the time being. That's going to change in just a second when Marcelo is going to declare an attack, and Dominic is definitely going to flip that.
He sent us the dragon to the graveyard, so he gets to decide whether or not he wants to use that. He might elect just not to because he doesn't want to hit a morale attack at this stage. If he hits a morale attack, that's bad. So I think he's actually elected to not use the dragon that was sent to the graveyard by Fleece.
It's interesting. So very different choices that you have to make because of this unique scenario when you are in the timeout procedure. And well, it does make all the difference. I was so convinced that Dominic had a Artifact Sanctum because I kept thinking about that.
Yeah, we were talking about it. He doesn't actually have it. He's
just now. I'm like, he's going to defend himself with the Sanctum, and then Marcelo might be activating his Wyatt Tower, and I'm like, oh, wait a second, he doesn't even have that. I just thought this is the train of thought that Marcelo is going through. So no defense for Dominic. Now, is there? Oh, he gets to send something to his graveyard. That's
for the effect of Squamata.
All right. But he's going to take damage. It's like, is there anything to stop him from taking damage?
He has Sinister Shadow Games. I think these attacks are coming in.
And this is it. Dominic checking his face-down cards. And this is his hand, Shadow Fusion and Dimensional Prison. And it would be wise for Marcelo to not attempt to special summon something from the extra deck. Maybe, does he want to, what's Mathematician is a 3-star monster, so there's no cowboy plays or something like that to just push for some more damage.
Yep, so it's 18 plus 15 right there.
There we go, that's a big swing, a very big swing in that state of the game. And Marcelo is happy. He has been thinking about what to do after those attacks connected and not wasting any time. Setting a Shadow Fusion.
He's grabbed that pen. He's ready to write his victory speech. you can tell. You can sort of just see ever so slightly the corner of his mouth raising because he's sort of smiling.
Dominic
There's a handshake. He
picking
knows.
up his cards. And Marcelo Barberi, the luckiest guy in London, 33rd place after the Swiss portion of the tournament.
That's incredible. Like, he just went from, oh, I'm out in the final round to, I'm still allowed to play, and he comes and takes down the entire event.